Welcome back. I hope you've been taking care. For today's agenda, we will be covering how to set up a workflow. We'll be looking at workflow templates, how to set up a workflow, including looking at the conditions and responses, and lastly, looking at approval users for your workflow to actually function. Okay, let's get right to it. First and foremost, you'll want to go to Workflow Templates. Once you do this, you'll be able to see all the workflows that are listed below. Now, do keep in mind there's different categories. You have category for administration, e-documents, finance, integration, purchase, payables, and more. Now, all of these workflows are pre-configured. This basically means is that they not only were they already added here by default, they have certain if and then statements already added onto them, hence why they're templates. They are by no, how do I say this? They are by no part ready to be used for Dynamics 365 because they have the most basic settings applied to them. If you want to have a more detailed workflow, you're going to have to add on to each of these templates by yourself. But thankfully, it's what we're going to do today. So the first thing that you're going to do here, now that you are in the workflow template, is go to workflows. Once you're here, you're going to click on new workflow from template. It'll show you the same exact line. You'll want to go down to purchase invoice workflows. Remember, whenever you click this, it'll show you the workflow templates and you'll click on purchase invoice workflows. Once you do that, you'll be brought to a page that looks exactly like this. Now, the first thing you'll be able to see is the code, which it generates automatically. You don't really have to worry about that unless you want to be picky with your code. For the description, it basically gives you a description that enables you to find it easier. If you create, let's say, multiple workflows for purchase invoices, you probably want to be more detailed with your description so you can find and edit the appropriate workflow easier or more easily. The third thing it shows you is the category. Since we are doing a purchase invoice workflow, of course you're going to choose a purchase document or a purchase doc. In case you were doing anything else like focusing on finance documents or payables, you would choose the appropriate codes. The next thing it shows you is the enabled button. Whenever this is on this side or disabled, it's when you're allowed to make edits to this. Whenever it's enabled, it means your workflow is ready to work. Of course, sometimes if you see error or like an X, it should show you a message up here. It means your workflow is wrong and it's not ready to work. Now, as you can see, we have three categories here: the when event, the on condition, and then the then response. Now, for the first line, it should say approval of purchase document is requested. Feel free to copy all of this, by the way. It should serve you in case you want to have approval notices every time someone clicks on a purchase order and tries to post it. The workflow is basically designed in a way where if you want to approve of certain purchases that your sellers or people in charge of purchasing certain things are taking care of, if you want to look into them and basically approve it before they make such actions. And this basically adds a higher level of management just so certain decisions aren't being made that can affect the company or business. For example, you might have a workflow exactly like this that works whenever someone's trying to purchase something that's more than $500. It would immediately notify you, and not only would it add a restriction, but it would wait for you to approve the request to purchase said item before they be able to continue. Anyways, the first line says approval purchase document is requested. This basically means whenever they try to post a purchase order, and notice how it says always, this will always happen. it'll add a restriction to it. Now, do keep in mind that for the condition, you can basically restrict this to certain vendors so that this only happens, the restriction only occurs when they're, let's say, for example, buying from Auto Parts Direct. Um, or if their payment terms code is one of the following, let's say they're taking 7 days and you want to flag those and add a restriction for whoever chooses that. Or even if they're paying, let's say, in Mexican pesos and you want to wait to actually do the correct conversion. Yeah, that on condition line is very useful. Now, another line says an approval request is rejected. That's whenever you say, nope, I don't approve of this purchase. And as again, it's said on always, it will reject the approval request for the record and create a notification. Take the time to read the following of these lines. Let me make it bigger just so you can read it better. Make sure to take the time to understand them. An approval request is approved. If the pending amount of approvals is 0, then it will remove the restriction. This is basically after you approve of the request. It's pretty simple to understand. The way I like to think about it is if and then statements. If something is approved, then they're able to continue. If it's denied, then it adds a notification. Just think about it that way. Oops, I apologize for that. Anyways, here you might see a plus. That's because that then response has other details added to it. For example, besides just adding a record restriction when there's an when they're asking for approval of a purchase document, it'll set the document status to pending approval. That's how you know that specific document is already, let's say, it already sent out a notification and it's waiting for approval before it's properly released. It'll also create an approval request for the record, and it will send an approval request for the record and create a notification. If and when someone tries to post a purchase order and again they ask for approval, once it asks for restriction and sends you the request, you should be able to view the request somewhere around here. It'll say approval, these bold letters, and you should be able to see the number 1. Now, the reason why you should get a notification is, for example, purchase orders. I'll give you a quick example. Once this thing loads. Okay, now that it's loaded up, it'll load again. I do apologize for the wait. Okay, let's say, and let me give you this example. You're on a purchase order. You're already getting ready to buy said item. Now, first and foremost, you have to make sure that your workflow is active. Once it is, whenever someone presses post on the purchase order, you'll see how you get the message, purchase order, blah, 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 must be approved and released before you can perform this action. So what you would do is request an approval, send the approval request, and you should see the approval request right around here. Now, you might definitely be asking yourself, why can't you see an approval request? And that is very simple. Since I am in a demo form of Dynamics 365, I only have myself set up. And this is something you will have to do if, in case you want to have approval workflows to work. You have to make sure that you have multiple users, or one, let's say 2 to 3 users listed in the user setup. For example, the reason why I can't personally receive or approve of certain workflows whenever I get requests, it's because, one, I don't have an approval ID. which you should be able to see somewhere around here. And approval user setup. There we go. Since I don't have an approval ID, that's one of the reasons it doesn't function. However, it also doesn't work because Dynamics 365 basically wants you to have a hierarchy. If you only have one person sending requests and approving them themselves, it kind of gives a lot of space for malpractice per se. So what you would do here is you would go to these 9 dots here, click on admin, and from there basically go to users and add a user. Now to add a user, you of course need not only a person but their Gmail and approval from your domain, as in the main company email address. So this part is very simple. However, I won't be able to cover it in this time until I gain access to our domain, but I will show you in the next video. For now, let's focus on a very simple workflow. Which is this. This is all it takes to get it to function, and it is ready to function. However, again, you just need to edit your users so you can actually have someone who can make the approvals. For the next video, I will be going into how to set up users. Again, for this video, all we had to focus on was how to create a workflow. With the information that you've learned here today, you should be more than capable of creating your own workflow. And if it's not dependent on approvals, it should be more than ready to function. For the next video, it should be about 3 to 4 minutes. We will be discussing how to create our users, since it's something that, although very simple, it is quite troublesome when you're trying to create approval workflows. Anyways, as always, please let me know if you have any questions or suggestions, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you. Have a nice day.